We have a new build on beta this week, and with it come a ton of changes to the Havoc Demon Hunter talent tree, both the class and the spec tree, including changes to talents, new talents, and tuning changes. Today, we're going to talk about them. Before we begin, I just said a lot of my viewers aren't subscribed. We are pushing up towards 900 and 1,000 subscribers, so any subscription to my channel really helps out, and I really appreciate all of it. If you enjoy the content, subscribe. If you like WoW stuff or Demon Hunter stuff or just DPS, World of Warcraft content in general, just consider subscribing. I have a ton of stuff planned in the future, and I really appreciate all the support. Now, enjoy the video. So, new beta build means new trees, new changes, and new fun stuff for our favorite class, Havoc Demon Hunter. Now, this build is sort of weird, so it has some pretty actually impactful changes to the class. However, not a lot of changes to the trees themselves. There are some changes, and those are pretty big changes, and we'll go over them. There are still a lot of bugs in the class, a lot of issues with the trees, but I think the trees themselves are in really solid places and are actually overall really good. Honestly, if they're released like this, I'd be fairly happy. There's definitely some improvements that can be made, a lot of bugs still, but overall, I'm excited where these are. So we'll go over all the changes first, start the class tree, then the spec tree, then I'll talk about some of the tuning changes that happened, and I'll give you my thoughts overall on them. Maybe we'll do more deep dive videos and other stuff. So, we'll start off with our favorite, the class tree. So it got changed a little bit to how it looked. They just made it more into 3 lines. They've kind of been steadily doing this, making all the trees look sort of vaguely similar. A lot of the trees before had some like weird, like different shapes to them, and they're just kind of making everything sort of start the same. So at the top here, not a lot of changes. We don't really have any changes until we get down to the bottom, but those are pretty big ones. So the first change here, you notice Blur is no longer on the tree. So Blur is actually now baseline for Havoc Demon Hunter. Now what that means is that Vengeance no longer gets it. I'm pretty sure Blur was incredibly powerful for Vengeance, probably one of their best defensives. DR and dodge is just super powerful. There's a bug on beta right now, of course there is, where we just don't have it in our spellbook. You can see there is no instance of Blur here under the Havoc spellbook, so that's just a bug. It is a known bug, it's reported, so that'll be fixed before most people get their hands on these trees. So other thing, new node here, Internal Struggle. It's a 1-point node, increases your mastery by 3.6%. This node is just free damage, 3.6%, roughly is about 3.6% chaos damage, so that's pretty good. Increase your chaos damage. Our mastery is actually really good for us now. I'm going to do a video going over stats and why mastery is good another time. But this node, really good. It also lets you get down to these trees down here, and if you can notice, there is a little new node down here. They moved it so that the Chaos Nova node is right here. I still think it's weird we need to get Chaos Nova to get down to this stuff. This stuff is basically throughput for us, but whatever. So, Internal Struggle increases mastery. Really good for us. I don't know if it's good at all for Vengeance, but hey, they can just take this one. Erratic Fell Core is still here. Sorry, Erratic Fell Heart. And then we have Collective Anguish. So this was the legendary from Shadowlands. I want to say Legion. I know it's from Shadowlands. It's only played in most content because of its interaction with our Covenant legendary. So pretty much whenever you I-beam, you summon a Vengeance Demon Hunter that breathes out Feldev onto all your targets ahead of you, dealing some fire damage, 11,000, around 12,000 fire damage. This is uncapped. It deals pretty good damage to multiple targets, deals pretty decent damage to singular targets. And what this does is it actually pushes a lot of damage in the middle now because of Cycle of Hatred. So this makes the middle a lot more viable in AoE now. So there are a ton more builds now, and honestly there's lots of builds where, and combined with the tuning changes on the left side, you might not even run these and can run it down middle. So if you're a momentum hater, if you don't like momentum, there's lots of more options now running through this middle here with Cycle of Hatred, Shadow Destiny, all that stuff, because of the fact that we have Collective Anguish. So you do get that extra oomph in AoE, right? So you get that extra benefit from Feldev. So the middle is a lot more appealing. That was it for our class tree changes. Not a lot of them. However, I do think these two are pretty big. Removing Blur means we just get it for free now, which is great. Desperate Instincts is no longer here. We still can choose Desperate Instincts. It's on our spec tree, and I'll show you guys that in a second. But the fact that we have just this more throughput nodes as opposed to just kind of like the 3 nodes or the 4 nodes that were here before is pretty good. Mastery and Collective Anguish. We're always going to pick these. It's not really a choice. You're just always going to pick them. You always went down here anyways, so hey, is what it is. Onto the spec tree. Now the spec tree, we actually do have a fair few bit of changes. So first off, we'll talk about Desperate Instincts. So it was put here as a choice node against Netherwalk. Realistically, you're still never going to go down here because of how tough it is to do that, because of how tight our spec tree is on points, right? Each point is super, super valuable on the spec tree, and it's really hard to kind of allocate those points around and touch them where you want them to be. So that happened. That's really the biggest like addition. But there are other changes as well. So the other big change is we actually had a Ragefire change. I'm going to do a video on the kind of math behind this and what this means for Ragefire itself. Ragefire is still good. Basically what they did is that each time Immo deals damage, it can crit on 3 targets, and then 50% of those crits will go into Ragefire. So each tick, it'll tick out your Immolation Aura. It'll hit maybe 5 targets. If it crits on 1, 2, or 3 of them, all of that damage will go into your Ragefire pool. If it crits on 4 or 5, then just 3 of those crits will go into your Ragefire pool. Overall, this is a way of changing it so that it's not super insane in large pulls. But to most people, this will still be roughly the same. It doesn't really change how Ragefire works in lower target count pulls because of just like your chance to critically strike stuff, right? Especially with how our stats work out in the first patch or first tier of the game. This won't really change that much for a lot of people. I think Ragefire is still really good. It doesn't have that scary uncapped potential that it did before, but it's still going to be a good pick in AoE. Another change comes in with Chaos Theory. So now Chaos Theory is more like its Shadowlands Legendary that expired it. So Blade Dance causes your next Chaos Strike within 8 seconds to have a 14 to 30% increased crit chance, which is new, and will always refund Fury. So now every time you use your Blade Dance into Annihilation, which you're going to be doing in single target now, especially because of First Blood, Dancing with Fate, and Trail of Ruin, you're just going to be using Blade Dance and Death Sweep and everything. But now, whenever you do use it, you're just going to get that Fury refund, get a little bit more Fury economy. It's going to be great. The last big changes are actually tuning changes, so that's kind of it for our tree itself. The stuff that they did change is pretty impactful. I think this is pretty cool. It's not too big of a deal. The biggest things are, of course, Collective Anguish and Internal Struggle. These are just great damage nodes for us. And then Ragefire is no longer going to be super problematic. It's just going to be fine. It's still going to be pretty good, though. The last things are some tuning changes. So the first one, they've nerfed Essence Break. So Essence Break used to be 280% attack power. It is now 252% attack power. It still hits really hard. It doesn't hit as hard as it used to. 252% is still a really large coefficient for damage, especially because this is Chaos, and then especially because we have that, just extra 4% mastery pretty much. And it'll still be doing really good damage to targets. It just won't be quite as strong as it was before, meaning that it opens up more options for the middle of the tree or the right side of the tree, especially because of new options in the class tree like Collective Anguish, which kind of push us towards wanting to use Cycle of Hatred to get that extra benefit if that is how things are going to be working out. We also have a slight nerf to Blade Dance. So the slight nerf to Blade Dance is that its cooldown was increased by 1 second. So it is now baseline. This is hasted, but I believe it is now a 1 second longer cooldown there. So that's a slight nerf. Again, barely ever going to be able to feel that. Well, look, it also applies to Death Sweep. 1 second longer cooldown. Not that big of a deal. 1 second isn't too big to notice. It's just going to be a little bit worse on our AoE, especially with all the damage gains going into Death Sweep. Now remember, Death Sweep and Blade Dance are still bugged. They're doing physical damage when they should be doing chaos damage with First Blood. So just remember that interaction has not been implemented yet, and that is a good reminder to just watch out for whenever that happens. The last big tuning change for us, and this one is pretty interesting, we actually no longer have an aura buff. So for those who don't know, a way that Blizzard has of kind of controlling class tuning, and this is super subject to change because we haven't done the final tuning yet, is that they go into what's called a class aura, which applies to all of a certain specs abilities, and they can tune that up or down depending on how strong or how weak things are. So I believe in Castle Nathria we got given an 8% aura buff. So what that did is kind of buff all of our damage by 8%. That has been removed. I think overall that's fine. We are doing pretty good damage right now. Of course, tuning isn't final. Things can and probably will change, so they could always put that back. But I think that's fine. It was actually really weird. So the aura buff was affecting Ragefire, even though it shouldn't have been, because Ragefire is just based off the damage you deal with your Immolation aura crits, right? But basically what was happening is that whatever this number would show, whenever it would explode, it would just be doing 8% more, which wasn't supposed to happen, right? That's not really what was intended with Ragefire, which is kind of funny. But yeah, that's just kind of a tuning thing. We'll do 8% less damage. We're still doing pretty good damage, but no one should care about that yet. We're not in the final stages. But, just putting that out there that our aura got put to 0. Not the end of the world. Who cares? Tons of time for auras to be changed around. I don't know if we're going to be in a spot where we need it. Right now, our stuff feels fine. But again, early beta, things can and will change. No one should be running around being like, oh my god, we got nerfed. Who cares? It's not live yet. No one should care. Yeah, so that's really it. I'm going to do some videos going over a few different things. I want to talk about the math behind Ragefire and why it's not actually that big of a nerf anymore. And how this kind of goes and changes it into a kind of more healthy spot. And I'm also probably going to talk about our stats, why Mastery is really good, and a few other things. So if you want to see those videos, you know, make sure you subscribe, leave a like, leave a comment down below what you think of these changes. I think the fact that we're getting Collective Anguish back and the fact that Internal Struggles here are both pretty cool nodes. And of course, I think the tuning on the class tree actually leaves it open to a lot of different builds now. Tuning the spec tree. You can go middle and right, middle left, left right. There's tons of different builds now in the bottom here. And I think it leads to much more diversity just because of the power of Collective Anguish pushing us more towards the middle and giving that more oomph in those scenarios where it matters. So that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed the video. I will be having more Demon Hunter videos, of course, and more non-Demon Hunter videos going out over the next few weeks. So if you like what you see, subscribe, leave a comment, all that good stuff. I really appreciate all the support in my videos, and I'll see you guys next time.